Hey, Ken Madden here with Ciro, and today I'd like to show you how to install our lighted license plate frame. This is a great way to add a little bit more light to your motorcycle. It's run, turn, and brake, and it's really pretty easy to install. So without any further ado, let's get right to it. One little helpful tip is if you have a way of securing the bike vertically and then put a jack under the back to lift it up just slightly so that the tire is just barely off the ground and the suspension can hang, it gives you a little more working room underneath the fender. That being said, it's not necessary, but if you can do it, it's a little bit helpful. So we're gonna get started by removing the seat. Now that you've got the seat off, it exposes the wiring underneath here, and what you want to do to locate first is this 6-pin connector. Sometimes it's in this area, sometimes it's up here. This particular bike, it's up here. This is a 22 Street Glide. So now we want to unplug that, and we're going to put this in line with it. So you simply just, there's a button right here to press, little tab. Press that, that pops right off. And we use the same connectors. That simply plugs in. Make sure you get it in all the way. Listen for that click. And then you have your two leads that are going to go to the lights. All right, seat's off, we get the wiring plugged in. The next step in the process is we need to remove this whole light bar assembly. And to do that, to start off with, we need to take off, there's a cover underneath, there's a plug, and there's a wiring loom screw that holds the wires there, and there's the two mounting screws. And to make this easier for you guys to see, we've got a fender that we took off the bike, and we'll be able to show you much easier this way without having trying to get the camera up under there. The first step that we need to do is take this plastic cover off, and I'll show you how to do that right here because it's easier to see. There's two little clips under here. You just want to pop that out, there and there, and then this come out. You push it up and out. You can see there's two little holes right there that match up with a tab on the top, and that'll pull right out. Next, you want to take this wiring harness out using these two tabs. Just pop them out like that, and this will pop out. You've got a hold down tie right here with this nut. You just pull that off, and then you'll have two bolts up top here to pull out. That'll take out the whole assembly. So we'll go back to the bike now. So I've got one of the bolts out completely. I'm holding this in with a little bit of pressure just to hold it there. We want to be careful at this point not to scratch your paint, because I'm going to just take the other nut out. There it is. The other bolt out, that's this guy here. Now there's nothing holding this in. Now very carefully pull this out, and you'll see behind it the wiring will start to come through. Now this particular setup has our crown tail light. You can go to Ciro3D.com if you want to see more about that, but I'm telling you that because there's an extra wire down here, and that's to the crown tail light. This wire, this thicker harness, is what's going to be on your bike. Now there's a rubber grommet that pulls out, so you pull this all out. With the light housing and license plate frame, the stock one, off the bike, we need to remove the stock license plate frame mount with these two screws, and they're Torx bit T27s. Just like so. All right, with our assembly out, what we're going to do is do a little bit of pre-assembly to make it easier to put it on the bike. And so we're going to put the plate inside of the plate frame, and to do that we're going to lift this up, and the plate needs to slide underneath of the lights in the corners. And to do that, it's helpful if you bend the license plate a little bit, kind of give it a little pre-bend so it'll fit easily under those lights on the side. Slide right in like that. Now you want to be careful. There's two wires up on top, so you want to make sure you get between the plate and the wires and not underneath the wires. And that'll slide right up there. And there you go. Well, that's in there. We're going to flip it over, And then these small screws with the lock washers and the other washer. I'm just going to get those started and tighten those down. So to mount our license plate frame with the license plate in it now to the stock housing, we're going to use these two holes right here in the stock housing. So simply slide this up, making sure your wires are on the inside, and then we're going to take these two flat washers and they sit right over the hole, and then I just kind of carefully place this up there. Now we'll take the top hat like this, that fits in the hole, and our lock washer and the screw, and we'll just attach them. And there you have it. Okay, now that we've got everything mounted here, we need to take this wire loom and get that inside of the rubber grommet here to feed it through the fender. And to do that, I'm actually going to untie this and stretch it out. So you just kind of pry this apart, and you want to get those wires down inside. You just want to make it so that this can close again, but it's not going to close all the way because it's got some of the wires in it. But that's all right, because when it goes back through the fender, it holds it together. So you get it about like that, and then we can put it in the bike. So as the assembly's all done, there's one more thing I want to point out. This one I mentioned before has our crown tail light on it. Right next to it over here, I have a stock setup. So if you don't have a crown tail light, the reflector is mounted here, and you'll need to take that off. I'll show you right on the back. It's the same two screws that you're using to pull off the license plate frame, but I figured I'd show it to you guys anyway. Okay, with the assembly all put together, now we're going to put all this right through here, through this little guy here, our hole. One thing that's helpful is if you take a little bit of either soapy water or something and just get some on the rubber. It just helps everything slide through a little bit easier. And we're going to install the long wires. Those started first. Again, as I mentioned before, this one has 3 sets of wires like this because we also have the crown tail light. You will have 2 if you don't have crown tail light and the main harness. And you want to be careful, again, not to scratch, and make sure that there's 2 sides to this rubber piece that can kind of move on you. So the top hat side, this part right here, make sure that that solid is facing the license plate side. And we'll run all the wiring through carefully. So we're going to slide this in and get this to seat in here well. You can see there's a little, it has a flange on the side that'll wrap around the thickness of the fender. So we're going to do that next. Now we're going to get those screws started. I'm going to tighten those screws up inside of there, and we're also going to install the wire harness back together, and we're going to install the wire harness keeper, the little flange that holds that on there with the small nut. Put the plastic cover back on. Our next step is to take care of all this. We're going to run this up along the fender on the inside. So to do that, we need to take off the saddlebag, so we'll take care of that real quick. All right, we'll set that over here. As I go, I'm going to use the zip ties to work it up together, because you want to make sure that they're tied so they're not flopping around and getting anywhere near the tire. Next up in here, I like to go through the metal piece that's there. It gives you a nice spot to tie it off to. You can tie it off to the wires too, like the factory does, but you go to the metal, just a little nicer installation. And again here, and then we'll feed it up in behind and it'll come out the top. So here's our two leads. We have our wires, we have our harness, we have our pigtails. The next thing you have to do is plug the right side into the right side and the left side into the left side, and then check it, make sure everything's working. So you've got a 50-50 chance of getting this right, but let me tell you a little tip. The wires on here, you'll see one of them goes red, blue, brown, and black, and the other one goes red, blue, purple, and black. And then the pigtails have matching wires. So if you simply match the colors of the wires and plug it in, it'll be correct. Also included in the kit is some dielectric grease. So you can just put a dab on there if you'd like. Plug it in. And you're set to go. That's the main installation of it. The light and the license plate frame are all mounted, the wires are run, they're tucked up. We gotta just trim off the zip ties. Everything's plugged in underneath, and now's the perfect time to check and make sure that everything works properly. So there's our power, it's working. Now you'll notice some of the other lights are not working. What I'm doing here is I've unplugged everything except for the lights that we installed, just to make sure that they're working properly. So let's check out the turn signal. That's working. Left turn, solid, and then brakes. So now we've confirmed that everything worked right, and it's all mounted, it looks great, and you're ready to reassemble the rest of the bike, plug everything back in, put your seat on, and go for a ride and have some fun. For more information about our lighted license plate frame, which are also available in black, by the way, you can go to Ciro3D.com and just type in license plate frame and it'll pop up and you can check it out. This is Ken Madden for Ciro. Thanks for watching.